As many of you know, HerTorah is a program of SVIVAH where we bring women from all different backgrounds in the Jewish community. Anyone who identifies as a Jewish woman is welcome here. And we come together to learn together from all different kinds of teachers. And we love our differences. We love that we come from very different backgrounds, and we can interact and learn from one another and have real conversations with people who we might not have met in any other way. So welcome, and we are so happy to be learning with you and from you. I'm going to take 2 minutes to talk about Hoshana Rabba. Some of you may have seen where the Facebook post where I said, please come join us for a special Hoshana Rabba learning, and said, well, what is Hoshana Rabba? Hoshana Rabba is the last day of the holiday of Sukkot. So if you explain to somebody, okay, you know, there's this Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah, they may have heard of it, Yom Kippur, they've heard of it. Sukkot, really not so much. And Hoshana Rabba, I would say, if somebody's heard of Hoshana Rabba, then they are very well educated. Hoshana Rabba is the 7th last day of Sukkot. It starts, all the Jewish days start the night before, so it's tonight and tomorrow. And during the time of the temple on Sukkot, they would have this, they would make kind of a circuit around the altar, and they would hold their lulavs, and they would go around the altar one time each day. And that's why in the synagogue on Sukkot, we do the same thing. We hold our lulavs and we walk around the space in imitation of what they did during the temple. However, on the last day of Sukkot, which is called Hoshana Rabba, they went around 7 times. And you know how when they hold their lulavs and we go around the synagogue, they say Hoshana, Hoshana. So this is a day when we say many Hoshanas, Hoshana Rabba, because we go around 7 times, and that's why it's called Hoshana Rabba. There is a tradition that Hoshana Rabba is a day of judgment, possibly. Maybe a day of judgment if Sukkot is about water and how much rain we're going to get this year, then Hoshana Rabba is a day of judgment about how much rain we're going to have this year. And there is this custom to stay up all night and learn Torah on Hoshana Rabba. And I actually found an amazing reason for that, which is that Simchas Torah is coming up. And Simchas Torah is the celebration of finishing all the Torah. And some people think that maybe for those people who weren't great about getting to synagogue and hearing the Parsha, the Torah portion every week, they couldn't complete the Torah in time for Simchas Torah. So they had to make this special night of learning Torah so that everybody could complete the Torah together for Simchas Torah. So I thought that was really interesting. I had never heard it before. And I'm so excited to be learning with you tonight. I'm going to ask you, I'm about to introduce Rabba Yaffa. Rabba Yaffa is an amazing teacher. And she's somebody you definitely want to be with on Hoshana Rabba, and I would say probably always. While I do that, please put in the chat if there is somebody who you know or who you would just like to theoretically invite into your Sukkah this holiday. Put it in the chat and tell us why. Rabba Yaffa Epstein is our teacher tonight. When Ariella and I started thinking about having Rabba Yaffa teach tonight, we were kind of transported to the last time she taught for HerTorah, which was the last HerTorah that was in person in DC right before COVID. And it was actually at a time when I was in New York and Ariella and Rabba Yaffa were in DC. And I was saying to Ariella, you know, there's something going on in New York. I probably shouldn't come to DC for this HerTorah with Rabba Yaffa. And Ariella, who had not yet really been impacted by COVID, was like, well, I guess if you think you don't want to come, I guess don't come. Anyway, 3 years later, we're so happy to have Rabba Yaffa with us. And Willa, would you mind please putting her Rabba Yaffa's, oh, it's right here. Great. I'm going to read a little bit of Rabba Yaffa's bio. Rabba Yaffa Epstein serves as the Senior Scholar and Educator in Residence of the Jewish Education Project. Previously, she held the position of Director of the Wexner Heritage Program at the Wexner Foundation. Prior to that, Epstein served as the Director of Education North America for the Pardes Institute of Jewish Studies, where she was also a member of the faculty. Rabba Yaffa has taught in-depth courses on Talmud, Rabbinic Literature, Jewish liturgy, Jewish law, Jewish leadership, and women in Jewish law. So basically everything. And you can continue to read her bio in the chat. We are so happy that you are here. Rabba Yaffa has many, many students who love learning from her. And every time that I hear her teach and I hear the way that she approaches text, it's always such a joy. So it's wonderful to have you here talking about joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you all very, very much. I really appreciate Ariella sent me this virtual background so that we could be in the Sukkah and our virtual Sukkah together. So I'll welcome, we're already welcoming them, but I'm going to continue welcoming us all in to this virtual Sukkah and to being together. And now I'm going to turn off my virtual background because I don't know about you, but I actually find a hard time learning from people when they have a virtual background on, if I can figure out how to do it. How do I do it? How do I turn it off? Oh, here, there, none. Okay, so this is my real background, but we're still, emotionally, we are still in the Sukkah together, if that's okay. But I just, for me personally, it's hard for me to learn when you can see the hands are, and as some of you know, I move a lot when I teach, especially on Zoom, because I want to make sure you're with me. And so I don't want to be like constantly having my webbed fingers in your faces. But thank you for being with me in spirit in the Sukkah. And thank you so much, SVIVAH, for having me in HerTorah, Ariella and Elisa. It's such an honor to be here. And it's always so beautiful to be a part of this community of women and people who identify as Jewish women. And I think it's a very beautiful thing to have the chance to learn Torah together in this community of diversity and of difference and as Torah as a mechanism to bring us together. It's really beautiful and very inspiring every time I'm with this community. So I really, really appreciate it so much. And there's so many wonderful people who are on this screen. I want to say hi to everyone personally and get to know everyone personally, but maybe afterwards we'll hang out a bit and get to know each other. But thank you. And I know people on here from so many different parts of my life and the world, and it's including Australia. Linda, a special shout out to Australia for being with us. It's pretty amazing. So, because it's the next day, it's like Erev Yontif for you. In a few hours, it's going to be simchateinu, so it's pretty cool to have you here. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. I just wanted to start off by talking about, oh, here we have people inviting people. That is so wonderful. Good. Ariel, thank you so much for inviting people in. I want to just repeat Rabbanic Elisa's invitation to us to invite people into our Sukkah, particularly women. If there are women that you want to invite into our virtual Sukkah, I want to encourage you to put them in the chat because we really want them to be with us, present here with us as well. And it's an opportunity to bring more people into our learning emotionally and spiritually also. So I was tasked with getting to talk about joy, which is pretty wonderful. Sukkot is this holiday where we say, and we're going to look at this inside together, we'll look at this inside the Torah verses which say this, but Sukkot is this holiday where we are supposed to be joyful, and we are supposed to be, we are commanded to be joyful. And there's something about this holiday that is more joyous than any other holiday that we have. All the holidays are joyful and joyous, and yet there's something more special about Sukkot. So I wanted to delve a little bit into that question of what exactly it is that is supposed to make, that Sukkot is supposed to be for us, that it's so much more joyful. And I'll just share with you very personally and honestly that for me, the idea of being commanded to feel anything, I don't know if anyone relates to this, give me a little nod, is like, no, thank you so much. Like, thanks for playing, but there's like an instinctive, like, no, like, you want me to be happy? No, you know, and like pushes against it. So I wanted to think about like, what is the aspect of Sukkot that I can connect to about joy, even if, and for me, it's difficult to maintain a level of joy for 7 days straight. That's a really big obligation. So what does it mean to really connect to this concept of joy? Now, of course, whenever I, oh, so beautiful, people are inviting women in. I want you to people in, I want to encourage you to read the beautiful things that are coming up in the chat. But whenever I teach Torah, I also try to find some current sort of modern thinking on this question. Before we delve into the classic text, I wanted to start off with 3 quotes. And here, my friends, I'm going to do something, and please let me know if this doesn't work for you. But I'm going to ask you, I'm going to pop into the chat a link, if I may. Okay, I'm going to ask you to click on that. Instead of sharing my screen, I'm going to ask you to click on that link, which hopefully will bring you, and I'm also going to upload the source sheet here. So, oh, shoot, that's not what that was supposed to be. Just kidding. Sorry, guys. Let's erase that. Can we delete that? I don't even know. Anyway, we'll be able to see that, but that's okay. Sorry, that was the wrong text. Please ignore that. Do not open that if you don't mind. But do open this. Sorry, I don't know why that happened. So sorry. Hold on one second, my friends. I apologize. There we go. Try that. There we go. Okay, amazing. So, okay. So those are the source sheets. Can everybody see that? If you cannot, please chat right now that you can't see the source sheets, because we need to really be able to let you see these. Please open the one that says SVIVAH Sukkot and not the other one. Apologize for that.
I need help.
Which one are we supposed to open?
You know what? Can you? Yeah, I'm gonna put. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm gonna put the link in again. Can you click on the link?
If the link
works, the other one doesn't.
Sorry.
The link works, the other one doesn't.
Okay, so just click on the link, okay, everyone?
I have it on my computer.
So the link is working. Is anyone not looking at a text right now?
Does it say folks are usually happy?
Yes, folks are usually happy. That's
Yes,
right. Okay, amazing. So at the top, thank you, everybody. So at the top of your page is a quote from Abraham Lincoln, which is, folks are usually about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Okay, and then that's one quote. The other one is, look for happiness under your own roof. This is by Gretchen Rubin. I don't know if people know who she is. She did something called the Happiness Project, where she took a year of her life and decided on 12 things that she wanted to work on to bring herself more happiness. And each month she did a different one of those traits to work on areas of her life that she wanted to bring happiness. And one of the things that she says is you have to look under your own roof, which I thought was pretty appropriate for Sukkot, the idea of looking under our own roof for happiness. And this also I thought was great for Sukkot from Brene Brown, a very important thinker in our time. She says, twinkle lights are the perfect metaphor for joy. For those of us who have twinkle lights in our Sukkah, I just really love that she said that. That was very Sukkah-y. Joy is not a constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Sometimes we miss out on the burst of joy because we're too busy chasing down extraordinary moments. Okay, so these are 3 different concepts of joy that I want us to relate to. We're going to look at some Jewish sources, which I hope will back them up or maybe contradict them, and we'll talk about that. I just wanted to offer 3 options for joy, okay? One is, the first one, Abraham Lincoln is telling us that joy is what, my friends? You can unmute or you can pop it in the chat. What is Abraham Lincoln telling us about joy? What is it?
that it's voluntary. It's up to you. It's
good. Beautiful. It's a choice, right? It is up to us, okay? It is not something miraculously bestowed upon us. Rather, it is a choice that we opt into joy. Okay, good. And what is Gretchen Rubin telling us about joy?
So you don't have to go so far. It's right there. It's in your own backyard.
Beautiful. It's not so far away. It's right in your own backyard. Beautiful, Sarah. And I think there's something else when she says your own roof. I would like to learn from that, if we can, in a sort of Talmudic way. your own roof and not someone else's. I like, thank you, Lauren, for that. Exactly. And not someone else's roof, right? It's a choice to look internally, if you will, whether that means physically in your house or inside yourself, but look internally first before you go looking for happiness externally. There's something about happiness that has to happen internally and personally. It's not, and I think this is such a thing, I really feel this way in our world today. It is not something external. If I go looking for it outside, I won't actually find it, right? It actually has to happen internally, not as defined from something external. And then Brene Brown teaches us another piece of Torah about joy. And what does she say? What does Brene say for us?
That we have to catch the joy when we see it, because it's not always there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Catch it when we see it.
Oh dear, I lost something.
Beautiful. Ah, in the mundane. I love that. That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous in the mundane, right? It's not just in the spiritual necessarily. It's actually in the tiny little regular moments. It's not extraordinary, right? It's not like, oh, I went to Paris for the weekend and that's my joy is going to come from. It's more like, oh, I found a really nice carrot and it was really fresh and crunchy. And that, just that moment of joy, I don't know why I chose carrot. I have no idea, my friends. And that moment of joy, right? I have to, but it's also something important here. She says you have to grab it, right? You have to, it's fleeting. It is not a constant. And therefore, right? There's a piece here that is work. Okay, now my friends, I just want to ask, I'm going to open this up to you all, and you can either, again, unmute and jump in or pop it in the chat. And I know people have been commenting in the chat, so thank you for that. I just want to ask you, which of these three models do you relate to the most? Which of these three models of joy do you relate to the most? And why, maybe, let's say why. Feel free to unmute and just jump right in.
I can say something here.
Yeah, Lauren, go ahead, please.
The second message, of course, I'm toggling between the two screens, but the second message about your own roof. I know that there's this concept of relative poverty and absolute poverty in social work. That and today everybody's exposed to everybody else's life, social media, the world. And we have this concept that's of everybody else's life. And then we have this experience of relative poverty, possibly.
Could you speak up louder, please?
Oh, sorry. So there's this experience that we have now of relative poverty that we can feel based on what we think we see in other people's lives. We can feel poor when we're not poor at all. And we should look for happiness in our own lives and not try to find it in other people's lives.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think it's so important what you're bringing up, Lauren, in terms of how we have access now to everyone's life, or the images we have to project about our life and how that affects our happiness. I think the really beautiful point about not looking outward. I love the idea of relative poverty, that we have to, that somehow like there's a new level of competition. And in a certain way, I don't know if you're saying this exactly, Lauren, whether it's financial or just emotionally poor, right? Like it's like we look at other people's lives or how they're projecting their life, and it somehow causes us to feel less than. And that's really, really powerful and important. And this is Gretchen Rubin is offering us an antidote to that. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm just going to check the chat.
I have something to say.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think happiness should be about family and friends, and
Beautiful.
you know, and just being nice. You know, that's important to me.
Beautiful, right? Kindness. I think we're going to look at that inside. There's going to be a Jewish text that really, I think, supports exactly that. There's something about being with family and friends and being kind to people, right? That brings us happiness inherently. Beautiful. What's your name? I don't know.
I'm Laura Cooper. I live in Minnesota.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. Beautiful point. Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. Do I have more thoughts about this? Alistair. Raise their hand. Alistair,
Hi, this is me. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. I was just thinking that, like, let's say you're mean to someone else,
Mhm.
then okay, then later you say, well, I should be happy. But if you remember that you were mean to so-and-so, 2 weeks ago, maybe you wouldn't be so as happy as if you hadn't been
Right.
to so-and-so.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think it's a really important point, right? How we, and actually Gretchen Rubin writes about this, how we treat other people actually affects how we feel about ourselves, right? So there's something really important here about if I treat other people well, I feel good, actually. I will feel happy. I want to just lift up some of the comments in the chat. Zan says, right, I think it's most accessible to do what Brene says and try to find joy in those mundane moments, right? Even when life has struggled, that there's an invitation to bring joy. And Lisa says, you can choose to be happy, right? It's better to choose to be optimistic, which is really, really an interesting point, right? Okay, beautiful. And Nina, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Hi, I just want to thank everyone for this call and just the transparent space to be able to just, speak about how we really feel. I find joy within because ultimately it is up to me, no matter what happens. There's always someone worse off than you, and there's always someone who's going to be better off than you. But I usually ask for discernment on what do I need to do to help someone else. Today someone told me, oh, I can't take a picture with you. Some people might get mad at me. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. I chose to be joyful in the midst of, taking the high road of whatever comes what may. So I just want to thank you all for your transparency. And I just want to thank Ariel for inviting me. And thank you so much for your teachings tonight. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Nina. Right. I love that, taking the high road. There's something powerful in saying, I can choose how I react, actually, right? So going back to how I started, which was when someone commands us to feel a certain way, what I'm hearing from a lot of you is, okay, that might be an invitation, actually, to feel joy. It's not that it's a given, and it's not that it's forced on you, but actually there's an invitation in this holiday of Sukkot that is different than other holidays. There's something about this holiday that is an invitation into the joy. So I'm gonna go on to the texts now, but let's keep in our mind these three models that we've seen, or these three sort of examples of joy, and what you guys have also shared about how I treat people, how I choose to react to situations, and also life being full of struggle, where I choose to pick out the beautiful moments of joy that I can experience and access, even when the rest of my life might be very hard and overwhelming. Okay, beautiful. So we're going to go on to source number 1 on our pages. And source number 1 starts off with, it's from Deuteronomy. And basically here are meeting Sukkot. Okay, so here we go. Source number 1 on our pages. You shall rejoice. V'samachta b'chagecha, on your festival. And we're talking here specifically about Sukkot. Look at this, my friends. With your son and daughter, your male and female slave, the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow in your communities. You shall hold a festival for the Lord your God 7 days in the place that the Lord will choose. For the Lord your God will bless all your crops and all your undertakings, and you shall have nothing but joy. Oh, sorry, I was just on mute there for a minute. I don't know how that happened. Did you guys hear me? I don't know what happened. Where did we last? We're good? Okay, great. So I'm going to go back over that in Deuteronomy 16, right? You shall rejoice in your festival, with your son and daughter, your male and female slave, the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow in your communities. You shall hold a festival for the Lord your God 7 days in the place that the Lord will choose. For the Lord your God will bless all your crops and all your undertakings, and you shall have nothing but joy. Okay, so what's interesting about these verses, you tell me what's interesting about these verses. Just pop into the chat. What do you think the source of the joy is here? Because I think there's a couple different messages. Put this in the chat for me, if you will. What do you think the source of the joy is in this commandment? What's this? Why are we joyful in this? Communal sharing, beautiful. Good, everyone can participate, right? You can hear that there's something about this Sukkah, this holiday of Sukkot that is inclusive. And it's actually an interesting idea that there's something about the joy that allows for inclusion, but I think there's something about the inclusion also that allows for the joy. Now, later it says, yeah, and you know what? This holiday is also a blessing of your crops. We talked about Chag HaSif, the gathering of your crops. There's something about this time, right, that's about bounty and abundance, and that's something about having enough to support everyone to be inclusive also is really important. Good, and there's a God's blessing here, really, really important. God's blessing our crops, but there's also something here about God's blessing. Beautiful point. Okay, what's interesting is, if we look at source number 2 on your pages, this is where we actually have an explicit idea. Now, I just want to remind ourselves for just making sure that everyone knows we're on the same page, literally and figuratively, right? On Sukkot, we have a few different commandments, a few different mitzvot, a few different obligations of the holiday. One of them is to build a sukkah, right? We've been talking about the sukkah, right? Our physical structure that is temporary with a temporary roof, that's our sukkah. We're also told, and we'll see this again inside, to take the 4 species, right? The arba minim, the lulav and the etrog, and the aravot, and our 4 species together and bind them together. The myrtle, right? Bind them together and shake them, right? Or really, we'll see inside just to take them. Now we shake them, right? But those are sort of the key mitzvot of Sukkot. Okay. What's happening here? Look at source number 2 with me, my friends. Source number 2 tells me the sages say, even though a person cannot exempt themselves from his obligation of the 4 kinds, and that's talking about the 4 species, on the first day of Sukkot with a borrowed lulav and etrog, he may exempt himself from his obligation of sitting in a sukkah by using his friend's sukkah. So the rabbis come along and they say, sukkah and the 4 species are different. Why are they different? The 4 species, everybody has to have their own. You cannot borrow your friends on the first day. You got to own your own. Now, there are ways to get around this, and we do end up sharing them. So don't take this as practical Jewish law, but at least in the Talmudic understanding, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to have your own. There's something about owning this produce for yourself, and we're going to talk about this explicitly in just 1 minute. Something about owning this produce yourself. We really want you to feel it and to have your own. And having someone else's doesn't work. But a sukkah, you actually can exempt yourself from the obligation of Sukkot. You don't have to build your own sukkah. You're allowed to sit in someone else's sukkah. And then the conclusion of the Talmud is, this teaches us that all of Israel are able to sit in one sukkah. That there's something going on here with the mitzvah of Sukkot, specifically the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah, that you don't have to build your own. And in fact, those of us who live in Manhattan or other parts of New York, it's actually very hard when you live in an apartment building to have your own sukkah. We don't have our own sukkah, so there's a communal one that we all use based on this sort of idea that we all can share a sukkah. You don't have to have your own physical structure. You can, and the reason for this is the unity of the Jewish people. There's something about this holiday of Sukkot that talks about unity that is really quite important here. Okay, so I just want to ask you all. I'm just gonna. I want to just ask you about this. What do you think we're trying to teach you, both in source number 1 and source number 2, about the connection between Sukkot being inclusive and the holiday and the elements of joy? You can you can unmute yourself, raise your hand, or pop it in. Oh, beautiful. A sukkah is a representation of community. Love that, Lisa. Thank you so much. Beautiful. What else, my friends? What else do we think we're learning here? Maybe I'll ask a question more pointedly and better than I'm doing right now. What do you think it is about having a structure that includes multiple people that allows me to get to joy? What is it about that inclusiveness that brings me to joy? What do you think? Let's check the chat. Beautiful. Being intentional about creating community. Good. getting family together, right? So good. I think that the Torah certainly seems to talk about people in your own household. And then the Talmud broadens that to all of Israel. But there's something about creating community. There's joy in community. I love that. Beautiful. The togetherness, right? And speaking of the last time we were together in person for SVIVAH, right? It's really true. There's something different about it, right? Beautiful, beautiful. There are two aspects, one personal individual and one shared communal, both. No one's left out. So there's something about beautiful scaffolding. Other people can see things that you could never see on your own. Beautiful, beautiful. There's more room on the inside than at first glance. Oh, I love that, Beth. That's so true about Sukkot. Has anyone ever had that experience? You're like, there's no way we're going to fit in the Sukkah. There's no way we're going to fit in the Sukkah. And then somehow 20 people are in this, like, oh, we did it. We could do it. And there's such an important lesson in that, right? About the capacity, the capacity to make more space. When we think we don't have enough space, we're scarce of space. But actually, there's a broadening here that brings joy. I love that. Beautiful. And also, Diana, you're saying we are bringing more people in, bring more people inside to learn about Judaism. Beautiful. So many gorgeous pieces here. Hopefully, we're going to come back right at the end, hopefully, and tie it all up. But I love that. Gorgeous. So Maimonides in source number 3 comes along and he says that source number 3, section 12 here with me, even though it is a mitzvah to rejoice on all the festivals, there was an additional celebration in the temple on the festival of Sukkot. So here we're talking about something called simchateinu, where there was a water drawing festival, basically that celebrated the fact that we were about to have, right, the rainy season, and we're asking God for water because in the land of Israel we're dependent on water for our survival, and so we do this whole beautiful water ceremony, and in that we have this joyous, wonderful party, and it happens in the temple. And so Maimonides says, he comes along and he says, you know, Sukkot was unique in that there was a joyous celebration in the temple. And the Talmud says that if you hadn't, the Mishnah says, if you hadn't seen that joy, you've never seen joy in your life. The joy that was in the temple at that time, it was the most joyous, wonderful festival. But then, my friends, and this is what I really want to get to. Ready? You with me? Then Maimonides does this crazy switcheroo. Ready? Crazy switcheroo in the Rambam and Maimonides here, where we move from Sukkot being the most joyous festival into source number 3, section 15. Hasimcha sheyisamach adam ba'asiyat hamitzvah ube'avat ha'el shetzava bahen. Right? The happiness with which a person should rejoice in the fulfillment of the mitzvot and the love of God who commanded them. Avodah gdolah hi. It is a great work, a great service to God. Okay? Fascinatingly, after Maimonides talks about the joy of Sukkot and the joy specific to Sukkot and the joy of the celebration in the temple over the water drawing ceremony, he switches into saying, and actually, what you are supposed to take joy in is simcha shel mitzvah, the joy of a mitzvah, the joy of being commanded. You guys will notice that I called this source sheet the joy of commitment, because I think there's something really interesting that I wanted to talk about with you and really powerful about the idea that when I do a mitzvah, when I do a commandment, when I fulfill an obligation, I actually feel joy. And that when I am doing all of these mitzvot, I have an obligation to feel joyous, specifically about being commanded. It's not just I do what I'm supposed to do and I do a check. I actually am supposed to feel deep inside myself the joy of commandedness. So I wanted to talk to you about that. We're going to explore it more as we go on. Don't worry, we're not landing here, but I'm just curious to hear what you have to say about, and he goes on to talk about, it's very interesting, he goes on to talk about moments wherein people express joy, and one of them, at the end of this section, he talks about King David. And he talks about King David when they're bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. There's a very famous story that's told to us in Samuel 2, which talks about King David bringing the Ark in and dancing wildly before the Ark. Okay, it's like a crazy moment where the King of Israel is dancing, and he's not really dressed. so appropriately, and he's just dancing wildly in front of the ark, okay? And basically, the Maimonides says in this piece, he says, that's how we're all supposed to be when it comes to mitzvot. We're supposed to just do them with abandon, with our full heart, dancing in this, can you imagine? Dancing in the streets. Imagine if every time we went to shul, we danced there, you know, or went to synagogue, we danced on our way to synagogue. Or imagine if every time we, I don't know, I'm blanking on mitzvot for some reason. Every time we, you know, I don't know what, someone give me a mitzvah. I'm blanking for a second.
Every time we went sick, we would dance to the hospital.
Right, visiting the sick, beautiful, right? We would like dance there with abandon and just like, God commanded me to do this and I'm so happy. Like, imagine that experience of what it would be like to fulfill mitzvot. And I'm just curious to hear what you have to say about this, my friend. Like, what do you think about this Rambam talking about the simcha shel mitzvah, the joy of mitzvah? Do you relate to it? What do you think, my friends? Please feel free to unmute or raise your hand. What do you think, my friends? Do you relate to this idea of simcha shel mitzvah, of joy from doing a mitzvah? Do you not relate to it? Do you wish you related to it? What do you think?
I was asking my grandson about learning the laning that we came home from dinner on Friday night, and he pulled out the tikkun and was learning it. He lanes most weeks. He's 16, and I was trying to find out why he was doing it. What was the pleasure he got from doing it? I was asking him about, you know, did you enjoy the learning? Do you enjoy the singing? Do you enjoy the presentation? You know, do you like being a leader? You know, what it was. Mm-hmm. And I think it was actually a bit of all of those things, but it was without any doubt the sense of the mastery of the text that he got in the process. And he was in the Bible quiz, which he learned in English, right? And he's saying, but as I'm learning, every time I'm learning to lane, I'm learning this additional thing. So I think there is something incredible in this idea of joy that comes in doing the commandment, particularly if you do it well. I mean, whenever you do it well.
Beautiful. You know, I love that mastery, right? So this is a new concept of joy that we have not yet seen, I just want to say, I think, which is that of a mastery of a text or of a mitzvah, or doing it well, living up to an expectation actually does bring us joy, which I think is really, really beautiful, Monda, beautiful. Helene, I don't know if that's your
Helene, yes. I just love that God commands us to be joyful, because I think sometimes, not all the time, but maybe sometimes we have trouble. Well, let me speak for myself. Maybe sometimes I have trouble being joyful, and it's like God's giving me permission, commanding me to be joyful. And I think what a blessing God is giving me and us to be joyful.
Beautiful. I love that. It's actually a gift. It's not a burden. It's a gift to feel joyful. So, Helene, I'm going to give a little teaser, but I want to say, not only is it a gift to be commanded to be joyful, but perhaps it's even a gift to be commanded.
Yeah, to be commanded.
Commanded to do mitzvot, to do actions that are good and building in the world, and that there's something about just being commanded. Of course, I love what you're saying, Alina. There's a commandment to feel joy in there, right? And that's what we're supposed to be
I
doing.
should tell you, my name is Helene.
Helene, thank you so much.
I know it drives people crazy because
they no, perfect.
It's okay, no worries.
Thank you so much. So Helene's saying to us, right, that it's wonderful to be commanded. It's wonderful to have an expectation of joy. Yeah. And someone else wrote in the comments, which I loved, the idea of abandon, right? There's something about being able to take joy in the divine that is so powerful. Okay, I'm quickly running out of time, and we have to get to, my friends, right at the end of our time together. There is the most gorgeous piece of Hasidic Torah. We have to get there. Okay, so I'm trying to build up till we get to the Hasidic piece because it's pretty complicated, but stay with me till we get there because it's just, I think, quite gorgeous. Okay, so we talked about Sukkah. We talked about the simchateinu, the joyous water drawing. Okay, and now we're going to talk about another element of Sukkot, which is, as we said, the 4 species. So here we are on source number 4, and we're back to more joy. Okay, source number 4: on the first day you shall take the product of hadar trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before your God 7 days. Okay, so this idea of taking this produce is supposed to be somehow adding to your joy. Okay, and then you shall observe it as a festival of God for 7 days in the year. You shall observe it the 7th month as a law for all time through the ages. You shall live in booths. That's our Sukkot. 7 days, all citizens in Israel. That's what we learned before about how they can all sit in one Sukkah, because it says all citizens in Israel shall live in booths, in order that future generations may know that I made the Israelite people live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I, your God. Okay, so fascinating here. We're told that taking this produce is going to also give us and bring us to this joy. I want to learn with you now a midrash that I think is quite gorgeous and really does speak to what we saw with Gretchen and Brene. Okay, if Gretchen and Brene could write a midrash, it might be this one. And this is a rabbinic text on source number 4. Okay, and I want to thank Darshanit Miriam Udell, who I found this on a source sheet that she had in Safari. I'd never seen it until I found it on her source sheet. And I think it is quite gorgeous. And I'm stealing a little bit of her Torah tonight as well. Although we all know it's not stealing, it's just sharing other people's beautiful Torah. So look at this text, my friends, it's quite gorgeous. And the text comes along and tells me to notice a very particular word about source number 4. Source number 4, verse 40. On the first day you shall do what, my friends? You shall take. Good, Lauren, excellent. I like that you can read. I've learned how to read people's mouths through Zoom. It's a really unintended, wonderful gift that has happened. But right, you shall take. Okay, notice the word take in that pasuk. It's not just have these 4 species. It's not pick them up. It's not give. It's not right. It's a very important a verb, which is take. And in Hebrew, ulakachtem, you shall take, physically take. Rabbi Yehuda, I'm in source number 5 now. Rabbi Yehuda opened in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, listen, my son, and take my words. Many takings have I commanded you in order to give you merit. So this goes back to what we were saying before, that perhaps there's joy even in being commanded, okay? And here the Midrash tells me that there are actually 4 times when God has said to the Jewish people in the Torah, take, you shall take, okay? Let's look at the 4 times. Number 1, I said to you, and you will take a pure red cow, right? This is talking about the red heifer, where we take the pure red cow, we burn him up, we grind him up, we use the ashes in order to purify people, okay? So that they can actually come back into the community. So, and you will take to you a pure red cow. Was it maybe for my sake, says God? No, I don't need you to grind up a cow and sprinkle yourselves. That's ridiculous. Rather, it was for your sake, to purify you as it is written, and the pure one will sprinkle on the impure one. And through this sprinkling, we become pure. That's taking number 1, red cow. Number 2, I said to you, and they shall take an offering for me, right? Like truma. Pay attention to that, my friends, because we're going to come back. This is talking about gifts to the sanctuary, to the tabernacle, in order that I will dwell among you and make for me a sanctuary. As if it were possible, the Holy Blessed One said, take me and I will dwell among you. And it does not say, and they shall take an offering, but rather, and they shall take for me, and they are taking me. Okay, ready, my friends? What am I saying here? When you brought me gifts to the tabernacle, you weren't just bringing me gifts. I actually gave you a means to access me. Again, this idea that the commandments are mechanisms to access the divine, okay? I said to you, so number 2 taking was actually you taking something and really taking me, okay? Said to you, and they shall take to you pure olive oil. And do I need your light? This is talking about the olive oil that we use in the temple to light the menorah, to light the candelabra, okay? Do I need your light? And light dwells with him. God has light, but rather to give you merit and to atone for your souls, which is compared to a candle. As it states, the candle of God is the soul of a person. It searches all of the chambers of the innards, okay? So now what are we saying? Do I need you to make light in the temple? Do I need you to make light in the tabernacle? I really don't. God is saying, I don't need any of these mitzvot. I don't give you these mitzvot for me. I give you these mitzvot. Why? For you. So that either you can have merit, or so that you can access me, or so that you, right, can actually find a way to come towards me, okay? And now that I've said to you, and you shall take for yourselves on the first day, this is very important, my friends, because this is our tie into Sukkot, okay? Which is interesting, by the way, the first three were all in the temple. It's sort of an interesting phenomenon, things that happen only in order to be able to work in the temple. And there's a whole conversation about the lulav and etrog and taking them in the temple. We're not going to do that for now, maybe next year. But what matters here is, it is to give you merit. Why did I tell you to take these 4 species? To give you merit, so that I will bring down the rain for you. Hence, Moshe warned Israel, you shall take for yourselves on the first day. Okay, so here it's actually a very interesting thing, because this feels like a little bit more transactional. If you do this mitzvah, this good thing is going to happen for you. The other ones feel a bit more spiritual, actually. You'll become pure. You'll have a way to purify yourself. You'll have a way to atone. You'll have a way to take me into your midst, right? These are all really much more spiritual. It's interesting when we get to lulav and etrog and the 4 species, it actually seems to feel a little bit more, right? Transactional. You do this, you'll have merit and you'll have water, okay? But we have to understand, of course, the deep significance of what the water meant for the Jewish people at this time. Okay, my friends, what do you think about this? What is this text? And here again, unmute, raise your hands, put it in the chat. What is this text teaching me about mitzvot and about joy, commandedness and joy? What do you think? Melinda, go ahead.
I think that's very important that there is a process, that to get to joy, you have to do certain things. You just don't have joy by standing there and imbibing the air and joy comes down on you. You've got to be active in the pursuit of the joy. And the commandment is giving you a strategy for
beautiful.
joy.
I love that word active, right? In all of these, the word that we are talking about is lakachtem, and you took it. You didn't let the joy just sit there. You picked it up. You did the mitzvah. You actively pursued the relationship with the divine, right? That there's something in, and I think there's a way in which this, by the way, this text does not mention joy. I just want to point that out to be clear. There's no joy here, okay? The reason why I think it's connected is because of that what we said in source number 4, verse 40, about the taking and then the joy that you're supposed to feel with this object. So what's interesting in this text in Vayikra Rabbah, the Midrash tells me that there are many times when God offers us the mitzvot and says to us, it is your job to opt in. I just have to share, I think that many times we think about Judaism as being such a top-down religion, commanded, obey, there's all these don'ts that we're not allowed to do. And what I love about this text is that actually what it's saying is, I gave you the commandments, I gave you the mitzvot as an opportunity to actively choose in. Not as a mountain hanging over your heads, but as an opportunity for you to actively choose into a relationship with me, says God. And you can pick it up. It's right there for you to pick up and bring into your sukkah. It's right there for you to pick up the 4 species. It is there for you. It is an opportunity where you can opt in. Okay, my friends. So I'm going to make an executive decision. Am I going to make an executive? Okay, yes, I'm going to make an executive decision. Okay, and I'm going to move on to one of my most favorite, most gorgeous pieces of text in the entire rabbinic tradition. Okay, it is just stunning. I do want to say there's some gender problematics to it. Okay, so if I can ask you and invite you, bring your reaction to this text. They are welcome here. They are invited in. There's very deep problematics with this text. It's heteronormative. It's patriarchal. There is no question about that. Okay, so bring that in. And also we're going to learn it because I do think that it's something beautiful if we can get past a little bit of that problematic text. And we also don't have to get past it if you don't want to. That's okay too. But I want to invite, I'll share with you my understanding of it. Hopefully it will help. But it doesn't have to help because your reactions are welcome and invited. Okay. But before we do that, I have to do one quick other introduction, which is Rabbanit Elisa mentioned that we are in Hoshana Rabba tonight. And we're readying ourselves actually to complete the Torah. We're readying ourselves to finish the Torah. And there's an idea that there's like a parallel in a way between Shavuot and Simchat Torah. That like actually it's almost like another receiving of the Torah as we celebrate Simchat Torah. So what's interesting is I mentioned the beautiful Hasidic piece. We're going to get there in a second. Where we're going is sort of this idea that Sukkot is this 7-day holiday. Then we have Hoshana Rabba, which is the beginning of the transition out of the holiday. Shmini Atzeret, which is the 8th day, which is a very confusing day because it has none of its own commandments. Interestingly, like it doesn't have any commandments on it. And outside of Israel, it is its own holiday day that there's really very little that's going on. And then on the 9th day, we have Simchat Torah. In Israel, Shmini Atzeret has become Simchat Torah, their one holiday. And I mean, they're one holiday here and outside of Israel as well, but the holiday celebration of Simchat Torah, of rejoicing in the Torah, happens on the 9th day, not on the 8th day. Whereas in Israel, there's only the 8th day, there is no 9th day, and therefore it's all celebrated as one. But in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, there's sort of this interesting, Shmini Atzeret has this interesting day of like, what is this day? And one of the understandings is the Talmud talks about this, and Rashi, important commentary on the Torah from France, also speaks about this idea that God does not want us to leave. Like, it's been so fun to be in the Sukkah together. It's been so inclusive and beautiful and wonderful. And God really doesn't want to say goodbye. God is sort of like, I love you guys. I don't want to say goodbye. So what we're going to see in a second is, so part of what happens is that in order not to lose this gorgeous connection with the Jewish people, God says, okay, I'm going to give you the Torah. And like the Torah is going to be the way in which even after the 8th day and the 9th day, when I have to leave, and we put down our sukkah and we go back to normal life where we just have to find joy in like the mundane moments of peeling our carrots, right? We don't have like a whole week where we're told to feel joy. We have to, what becomes sort of the treasure that allows us to be in relationship and continues to, it's the Torah, okay? So this Midrash is playing off of that idea. And then we're going to see this gorgeous Hasidic text. Just stay with me for, it's like the ice cream at the end of a very healthy dinner, okay? So here comes Exodus Rabbah, source number 7 on your pages, which goes back to, remember we talked about the taking? So this goes back to this idea of Vaikuli Truma, take for me an offering, which is where we're basically bringing to the temple from the people, the gift to God for the temple and to build the temple. But as we said earlier, there's a weird textual problem of Vaikuli Truma, take an offering to bring to me, which is what the simple understanding of the text is. It actually sounds like Vaikuli Truma, take me, says God. Don't bring me an offering, take me. I want to be with you so much, says God, okay? So here's what happens, my friends. Are there sales where it is like the seller has been sold with the object? God says to Israel, I sold the Torah to you. I gave you the Torah. And it is as if I was sold with her. As it says, take for me an offering. When you take my Torah, you're also taking me. This is comparable to a king that had only one daughter. This is the problematic patriarchal part. Another king came and wanted to take her back to his kingdom as a wife. Okay, so it's a princess. Another king wants to marry her. Everybody with me? The king said to him, my daughter that I gave to you, which again, why can't she give herself? We know, a big problem. She's my only one, and I cannot part with her. But I also cannot tell you not to take her because she's your wife. I gotta look, it happens. Kids grow up, they leave the nest. I gotta let you take her. But I'm gonna miss her. So hard, right? Rather, do me this favor. Listen to this, team. Every place that you go, make for me a small room so that I will live with you because I cannot let my daughter go. Okay, imagine that, my friends. Imagine if you had a special room for your in-laws in every house that you went to. Very, very challenging, I'd say, right? It's quite a request. Wherever you go, make a little room. I'll just come visit whenever I want. Right? It's real. So this is what God said to the Jewish people. I gave you my Torah. I cannot leave her behind. I cannot tell you not to take her. Rather, every place that you go, build for me one house that I will live in it. And this is why it says, make for me a mikdash, right? So there's something kind of gorgeous about this, particularly around Sukkot, where we do believe that, there is an idea, I should say, that Sukkot is some sort of replication of the temple. And there's something about building the Sukkah, which in effect is like building a mikdash. God has come down into our Sukkot. God is with us. We have included everyone, we said, right? Everyone in our family, everyone in our household, and then we say all of Israel is invited into our sukkah, and also God is in our sukkah, everyone is in our sukkah, and God is like, I don't want to go. And you hold my Torah, you have my Torah, I don't want to go. Okay. All right, my friends, here we are. We are ready for our Hasidic text. Are we ready? We have dropped many, many pieces along the way, many little crumbs that hopefully now this Hasidic is going to come and bring it all into one gorgeous, gorgeous piece, and I hope with one amazing twist. But I just want to say one other thing, which is, we go back to how we started. Abraham Lincoln, Gretchen Rubin, and Brene Brown. I do think we actually found all of those people pieces and their philosophy of joy in our text, right? We saw it's about a choice. Am I going to choose to be happy? Am I going to vilakachtem? Am I going to pick up that lulav and esrog and decide that I'm opting into this relationship? Am I looking inside my own roof, my own family? Am I taking care of my own? Is the happiness and joy coming from within rather than looking outside? And am I choosing joy in the mundane moments of my life, not waiting for it to happen like a lightning bolt, but rather I'm choosing, I'm opting into, I'm looking for the joy, I'm noticing it. I just want to say we added to this Maimonides' charge to us to say, try to find joy in just being commanded. And we added, I think, the joy of being in relationship with the divine. What does it feel like to be in relationship with the divine? We also have seen, I think, the desire of God to be in relationship with us. It's not just taking joy in our opportunity to be in relationship with God, but taking joy in the idea that God wants to be with us also. So the Sfat Emet, my favorite Hasidic teacher, Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alter, he was the second rabbi in the rabbinic dynasty of the Gera Hasidim, comes along and says this, my friends. Everybody with me? How are we doing? Everybody okay? We're doing good? Oh, I'm seeing there's chat. Oh, I love this. Sukkah open on one side. Beautiful. God wants us to. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so here comes the Sfat Emet, my friends, the Sfat Emet. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and translate, so don't worry. Usmechim b'Shmini Atzeret, and we are joyous on Shmini Atzeret, the bridge, if you will, between Sukkot and Simchat Torah, the joy of Torah. But Torah, what are we rejoicing in? We are rejoicing in the Torah herself. Ki al yedei haTorah, because through Torah, zochim lazo hashafa udvekut pnimiyut and pnimiyut. I translated that as the flow of the divine and internal closeness, but I don't know if that's the right translation. Anybody want to offer a different translation? Udvekut pnimiyut, like it's like my internal stickiness. It's like I'm stuck to God. I am connected to the divine. I said closeness, but it really doesn't. It's really stickiness. I'm stuck to God. So the Torah allows me to get to God. That's what he's saying here. Okay. Midrash, and look, he brings our Midrash. As it says in the Midrash, it is a parable to a king who marries off his daughter. I cannot part with my daughter. Rather, in every place you go, make for me one small room, and I will dwell there. We saw that inside, right? My friends, I can't part with my daughter. She's so precious to me. On Sukkot, listen to this. On Sukkot, Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, are in God's shade, right? There's something about the walls of the sukkah that are God's shade for us, and the roof of the sukkah. God is shielding us. And then when we have to end Sukkot, God says, "Oh, leaving you is so hard for me. I don't want to leave you. It's too hard." So that's why God gave us one extra day of Shmini Atzeret. Okay, now listen to this, team. This is very important. Then he does this really interesting thing where he shifts to telling me that Torah brings unity, but also the mitzvot, the commandments of Sukkot, also bring unity. Okay? Ubesukot velulav ba'inal ha'achdut al yedei ha'sukkah v'halulav. Remember, we talked about this, that there's something about the sukkah itself which brings this unity. Everyone can come in. Interestingly, the lulav Ezra, we didn't talk about this and how it also brings unity, but there's another rabbinic text that says that too is about unity, uniting all the people of Israel. So there's something about Torah that unites us all, and there's something about Sukkot and lulav that unites us all. It's about unity. Okay, my friends? Aval, atat sereti alachem sheyacholim lihitasef be'atzmuteinu. But now, Atzeret, the last day, is about us bringing our own power and strength. And what's our own power and strength? V'hu b'koach HaTorah. V'katuv, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Morasha kilat Yaakov. It is written, right, that the Torah was commanded by Moses, right, through Moses, I should say, and it was an inheritance for the community of Israel, okay? Why? The Torah is called the community of Israel. Why? Listen to this, team. Because sheyesh l'kol ish Yisrael chelek urishima ve'ot b'Torah nimtza haTorah hi kilat Yaakov. Because every person from Israel has a piece of the Torah and has a letter that is written for them, and thus it is an inheritance of the entire community of Israel. So what he's saying here, my friends, I think it is so gorgeous and powerful. The Torah, sort of the culmination, if you will, of Sukkot is Simchat Torah, is this joyousness in the Torah, is rejoicing in Torah. Why? Because the Torah is unity. The Torah is achdut. The Torah is community. And it is each and every one of us. Every single person is necessary for the Torah. Okay? So we get to unity, and then God comes down to be with us. So it's a very beautiful thing he does right at the end there, where he switches it. First he says, we bring the unity to Torah, and then he says, but Torah has the capacity to unite us. So there's something really interesting, and I think really important here. The Torah needs every single one of us to opt in, but the way that we connect to one another is through Torah. So why does this connect to what we said before about joy? What I think he's trying to say to us is, Sukkot is an opportunity to choose to opt into joy. And what is it about? Two things, I think. And somebody said this in the chat, I can't remember who, I'm so sorry, internal and the external. But there's something beautiful here about, on the one hand, the Sukkah being an invitation to all to opt in, to come into the community, on the one hand, and also to us to choose to opt into the divine, that it's basically an invitation. But what the joy then continues and says, yes. And the invitation then shifts from Sukkot and Lulav to the Torah itself. That we have an invitation to opt in, to bring our own individual letters, that the Torah needs the Jewish people to opt in, and the Jewish people needs the Torah in order to have a united mission, a united purpose. But all of what I think is so powerful and important here is that God is saying, I want to be with you. I am inviting you in. I'm inviting you in to be united so that I can be with you in the Sukkah, so that I can be with you in the Torah. And wherever you go, you should know that the invitation is open for you to have a relationship with me. And that's where the joy is. The joy is in us opting into that relationship with the divine and being invited in to experience that, choosing it, being active participants in our own relationship with the divine and with one another. With that, I'm going to pause here, and I'm just going to ask if anybody has any final questions, comments, needs, thoughts.
Yeah, like as you said, it just that's great. Like how we're all like one people, and we're all, no matter how observant or religious or whatever, what have you that we are, we're all one kahila, one klal Yisrael, all deserving of Torah, all just in it, with and worthy of a relationship, with Hashem. And I love that.
Thank you, Sarah. Beautiful. Thank you. 100%. We're all invited in wherever we are.
And that's unconditional, as in who we are as a member of Klal Yisrael is not determined by gender or age or ability. And want to say that in the context of Lisa sharing with us her joy at her son's bar mitzvah that she just achieved. And so often people with disabilities are excluded. And all of this teaching is consistent with the, my line of teaching whenever I can about the importance of saying that the rest of the community suffers if we don't include those people. And it's not for us to choose who we want to include or not include. It's for us to actively include everybody if we want the community to operate with unity and to find joy in the community.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Munda. Thank you so much. Helene,
it's like we all have a seat at the table with God and the Torah and with each other.
Exactly. Amen. Beautiful, Amen. Helene. Good. You couldn't have summed that up better myself. Beautiful. Thank you.
I want to say it can't be taken away from us.
Beautiful.
Right? The invitation extends to every single one of us, and then it's our choice. And when an invitation gets extended, it means that I get to choose. And no one else gets to make that decision for me.
Yep. Beautiful. Thank you all so much. It was a real joy to get to learn Torah with you tonight. And may the rest of your holiday just be full of joy. And we got 3 more days to squeeze out every last morsel of joy. Let's opt in and let's build more inclusive and beautiful Jewish communities. Thank you all so much.